Okay, so our second day of using the sum and difference identities, we're now going to focus on the cosine identities. And so again, this is almost easier to be honest. And just notice the difference that when we have a plus sign here in the formula, or in the original, our formula is going to have the minus sign. So these are going to carry the opposite sign. So just something to keep in mind. Now, similar process. So we have the cosine of 105 degrees. So what are two angle measures that either add or subtract from the unit circle to get 105? And there are going to be cases where you have both. And it doesn't matter which one you use, whatever you think comes to mind first or think is easiest. In this case, I think of 60 degrees plus 45 degrees. And so what we can say is we have cosine of 60 degrees plus 45 degrees, and that is going to give us, or add, to get us that 105. Now, following this formula, because we're adding, we're going to use this first formula here in red. And so how we follow that formula is by taking the cosine of that first value, alpha, which is 60 degrees, times the cosine of the second value, which is beta. Sorry, that wasn't a very good beta, which is 45 degrees. And we're going to follow this formula. Now, you don't have to do this, but I think it'd be helpful to go ahead and just write down what is the coordinate point of 60 degrees and what is the coordinate point of 45 degrees. And so at 60 degrees, if we look at our unit circle, we have 1/2, comma, radical 3 over 2. And if we look at 45 degrees, we have radical 2 over 2, comma, radical 2 over 2. We always like the 45 degrees, right? Remember, x comma y, or cosine comma sine, so don't forget that. Now, when we follow the formula, remember, alpha is representing the first number in our parentheses, which is 60. Beta represents that second number in our parentheses, which is 45. So let's go ahead and follow this formula. So the cosine of alpha, so that is the x value of 60 degrees, which is 1/2, times the cosine of beta, or the x value of 45 degrees, which is radical 2 over 2. Minus, following the formula, remember, because it's opposite, so minus sine, so now the y value. So the y value of 60 degrees, which is radical 2 over, radical 3 over 2. So the y value of 60 degrees, so radical 3 over 2, times the y value, the sine of 45 degrees, our second angle measure. So times radical 2 over 2. Okay, again, multiplying fractions, we multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. And when we do this, we get the square root of 2 over 4 minus the square root of 6 over 4. So similar numbers as previous problems, but a little bit different in terms of order and what their final solution would be as a decimal. When we combine these, remember we cannot combine a square root of 2 with a square root of 6, so we're just going to write those as a subtraction problem. But they have that common denominator, so this is the exact value of the cosine of 105 degrees. Now, what about the cosine of 15 degrees? And so we're going to use our subtraction problem here. There are a few different options, but let's take a look at when cosine of 45 degrees is being subtracted by 30 degrees. And so we're going to use that second formula, so kind of underlined in green here. Remember to keep track, so because of this minus, we're going to use this minus, meaning it's going to be the opposite in our formula. I would, again, just write these out. So my 45 degrees angle, I have a radical 2 over 2, radical 2 over 2. And if I go too fast, you can always pause, rewind to kind of catch up. Now, the 30-degree angle, if I look at my unit circle, we have radical 3 over 2, comma, 1/2. And again, x comma y, this is cosine, comma, sine. And so following this formula, what is my cosine, or my x value, of my first angle in this parentheses, which is 45 degrees? So the cosine of 45 degrees, or x value at 45, is radical 2 over 2, times the x value, or the cosine of beta, which is that second value inside the parentheses, so 30 degrees. So x value of 30 degrees is radical 3 over 2, plus, because it's opposite, right, so we have this, so opposite, sine the y value of my first angle measure, 45 degrees, so radical 2 over 2, times sine the y value of 30 degrees, that second value. So y value of 30 degrees is 1/2. And again, if we multiply these out, we get the square root of 6 over 4 plus the square root of 2 over 4. And again, like terms, common denominators, not like terms, but you know what I mean, common denominators. So square root of 6 plus 2 all over 4. And that is the exact value of cosine of 15. And there are two more, the sum and difference identities for the tangent function.